Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan Streech. I'm talking to you today from aboard one of our Nordhavn 56 motor sailors, and I wanted to spend some time talking to you about the controllable pitch propeller. In September I spent a week aboard one of the motor sailors in England at the Southampton show. It was a great experience. Many hundreds of people came aboard the boat and admired it and were seeing it for the first time. And one of the questions that is invariably asked is, how does she sail? That question always leaves us sales folks struggling for a correct answer or a proper answer. There are definitive ways to describe sailing performance, polar charts and statistics and speeds at various wind speeds and so forth, but usually when the question's asked, the answer it's usually a subjective answer that one expects to hear. She sails great, she sails lousy, she whatever. Simply said, this Nordhavn motor sailor is a beautiful sailing boat. We've shown that in some of the tests and some of the videos that you've seen, and by our own and by my personal experience with the boat. She's easily driven, lovely underbody, tall, powerful rig, very good sailing boat. But that's not what we're here to talk about. This boat, this motor sailor, is beautifully finished. As we all know, you've seen it in the photos and the other videos. But in many ways, this would just be another motor sailor, quote unquote, were it not for one really important special feature on this boat, and that is the controllable pitch propeller. We've gone to great effort and I should say great expense to weave in this Hundested Controllable Pitch, we call it CP propeller. And what is it? You've probably already read about it before, but it is a propeller which has a pretty good size center hub with a gear mechanism in it, which is controlled by, essentially mechanically, by a rod that runs through a long borehole that's bored through the propeller shaft. This long rod actually actuates the propeller from inside the boat through a electric linear actuator motor, which pushes this rod in and out to affect the gears in the hub of the propeller and control the pitch. And why is this so important? Well, and this is the point that really dawned on me during the Southampton show after the 500th time that I had explained this to folks. And what I came to realize was that a lot of pretty smart folks that came aboard the boat, lifetime sailors in some cases, Nordhavn aficionados, trawler people, mechanical people, until I actually pointed it out, they didn't quite get the importance of that controllable pitch propeller. And what that does for the boat is that it allows you to get optimum settings in a motor sailing condition. This boat, or any sailboat or motor sailor, and we all know there isn't a real clear definition of what even is a motor sailor, but any sailboat, when you're sailing in light air, and let's say with this boat I would call light air, anything under 10 knots, with full sail, full main, fully unfurled headsail, you might be doing 4 knots in broad reaching and in 10 knots of true wind. And that's not enough. You're annoyed by that and you want to go faster. So you start the motor, as sailors have done millions of times over the years. But what happens then? Well, fine, you rev the motor up to move the boat from 4 knots to 6 knots or 7 or 8 knots actually doesn't require much horsepower. So you put your engine in gear, you put a few revs on, and the boat speeds up, and you're happy. As the wind begins to pick up, let's say it just picks up a couple knots or so, what would have been 4 knots becomes 5 knots. Still not enough. You still want a motor sailor. You want to get your 8 knots. The ironic event that happens with normal boats, all boats other than this Nordhavn motor sailor, is that at the very moment that you actually need a little less power because you've got more wind assistance, you actually have to speed the motor up. The reason for that is that with a fixed blade propeller, as most boats have, basically virtually all boats have, as you pick up natural sailing speed, you tend to sail away from the pitch of the propeller. In an extreme case, you literally sail so fast that the spinning propeller would be a drag. But in this boat, what you do as the wind speed picks up, you require less power, so you can slow the engine down and turn up the pitch of the propeller, crank in more pitch. And there is a control panel here and a meter that shows the amount of pitch in the propeller. And so there is a new skill that the operator of this boat learns actually quite quickly. I've spent a couple days on this boat. It was easy, it was fun, it was very, very satisfying. And what you're doing when you operate this boat is that you are playing the sail area, the engine RPM, and the propeller pitch together to get the maximum efficiency. Essentially, simply said, you're trying to run the engine at as low an RPM as possible, or not at all. And I'll give you an example of something that I experienced. I had, like I say, I had the boat out for a couple days over to Catalina, and we were sailing along, and to add to the pleasure of this boat, she has a full batten main, which literally, I brought the boat right through the wind. That main will stay full, practically dead to weather motoring. But we were sailing along, motor sailing along, it was probably 10 knots of wind. We were doing just under 5 knots, and so I did just what I described here previously. Turned the engine on, put it in gear, and then started playing with the pitch. And another little device that helps you with this process is what we call the Murphy gauge. It's a digital readout that is part of this engine management system, which gives quite a bit of information, but the 2 key points that I was looking at were the percent loading and the gallons per hour consumption. So what I did was I literally just had the engine barely above idle, had it about 1,000 RPM, and then I started cranking in the pitch little by little, watching that Murphy gauge, and as I put more pitch in, I could see the fuel consumption go up, and I could see the percent loading go up. And when it got up to it was probably 85% load, the engine was distressed a little bit. I could feel it struggling. So I backed down on the pitch a little bit, and then ended up putting another 50 revs on it, and then put more pitch in, and then I settled it down at about 70% load, and I was doing over 8 knots, consuming a gallon an hour at about 1,000 RPM, and it was just the light went on in my mind. I said, that is why this boat is nifty, and that is why this boat is different. It was such a great experience to learn just at that moment. It was just the basics of really what is important in this boat, how you operate this boat. It's different than any other Nordhavn, obviously. No other Nordhavns have a sail or have a controllable pitch propeller, and it's different than any other so-called motor sailor. And I became a great aficionado of this boat after that experience. Actually, I always have been. From the day we conceived this, I've always known that I love this boat. But these boats, none of these boats yet have made ocean crossings. But I've sailed to Hawaii twice years past on our Mason sailboats, and there is nothing better than a gorgeous, powerful sailboat offshore in trade winds. And this boat would be a perfect candidate for that. You would be motor sailing initially along the lines of what I was describing, and then it wouldn't be long until you were in 15, 18, 20 knots of wind. And at that point, then, this same gorgeous propeller, you would pitch it the other direction, and you would actually pitch the blades flat. So just the leading edge was facing forward, and you would reduce the drag to next to nothing. Just the surface tension of the blade area and the little bit of shape of the blades and the hub of the propeller, but your drag would be a tiny fraction of what a fixed blade propeller would be, and you'd be just a sailing machine, smiling ear to ear, probably some kind of a cruising chute up, full sail, vanged out, autopilot, making your 8 to 9 knots, probably more, actually, coming down some of those gorgeous big waves going to Hawaii. And then when the wind died down, on goes the motor again, and you begin the operational skill of adjusting RPM and propeller pitch and sail area to the conditions. And again, you're smiling ear to ear. This boat, we talk about the range of this boat using kind of the conventional criteria and jargon of a regular Nordhavn. What would it be with the fuel capacity and just straight motoring? But that isn't how you'd operate this boat. You'd probably have a sail up virtually all the time, at least the main, because it even in dead calm conditions, it fills and stabilizes the boat. But in any kind of wind condition, it's going to begin to assist moving the boat through the water. So the range of this boat is, it goes off the chart. There is no number for it because it's almost infinite in a way. Sooner or later you're going to run out of fuel, you're going to run a generator, you are going to run the main, but you're going to way extend your range with the motor sailing performance. Here is the Murphy cage that I mentioned. This is tied into the CAN bus digital system of the engine, and picks up the engine RPM, the percent loading, and it's percent loading at a given RPM, and the fuel consumption, gallons per hour. The engine RPM shows here also in this analog gauge. It's replicated over here. But the key point is when you're adjusting the propeller is that you're watching this percent loading, and you're watching the gallons per hour. And an interesting side note is that we, just roughly speaking, we generally consider 1 gallon an hour to be worth about 20 horsepower, or 20 horsepower requires a gallon an hour. So in that example that I gave of bringing that boat speed from 5 knots up to over 8 knots using a gallon an hour, it really, simple arithmetic, it took 20 horsepower to do that. Really pretty amazing when you think about it. These are the controls for the controllable pitch propeller. It's a pretty simple, just as you see it here. This meter right here reads out in percent of movement, and this actually has a feature that on this boat isn't used. You can actually reverse the pitch of the propeller to put the boat in reverse, but we actually have a conventional gearbox on this boat, so we don't really use the reverse pitch. But if something went wrong somehow and you needed to go into reverse using the propeller, you could do it with this system. So you range from no pitch to 100%, either forward, reverse. Again, we don't really use it in reverse. We use the gearbox for reverse. Or you bring it all the way around here to fully feathered, which puts the blades completely flat and minimizes drag through the water.